Hello, Hello everyone, and welcome to our next session, which will be focused on health budget. As I'm not an expert on health budget, I have Gregorio Sorgi with me. He's my great colleague and also Politico's expert on budgets. So we will have a small chat with him, and then we will welcome panelists for a discussion. So, Gregorio, I would love to ask about, what's there for health in the coming multi-annual financial framework for 2028-2034. And just a bit of context that under the Commission's proposed long-term budget, health would get 22.6 billion, which sounds quite a lot compared to the current budget. However, currently it's a standalone budget, EU for Health, and under the Commission's proposal, health would have to share together with biotech, bioeconomy, and agriculture. So, in short, the question is health winning or losing?
That's a big question, but I think that the big change, as you've said, is that so far we've been used to having EU for Health as a standalone policy of its own, whereas in the new budget, this will be part of the European Competitiveness Fund, which is one of the key pillars of the next MFF, and it encapsulates many different topics. There are 4 windows, and one of them, which is worth 22.6 billion, is focused on health, bioeconomy, and agriculture. So health as a policy will have to compete against other related areas. And I think the big change in philosophy is that compared to the previous budget, the Competitiveness Fund is way more market-driven than previous instruments that we've seen in the new budget. The whole point is that the money should not be allocated to national governments or firms based on their geographic location or based on their area of expertise, but it should rather be a market-driven process where firms compete against each other. And at the end of the day, the most competitive firms should be getting the EU's resources. And there is a stronger link to excellence and competitiveness, which is something that we haven't seen in the past. So I think this is the big change, and the health world, like many others, will have to start grappling with this big philosophical change almost.
Thank you on this. I think it's really interesting to hear, that competitiveness will be a criteria. And I think when we talk about health and public health, we not necessarily have areas that come as competitive, right? Like, I don't know, prevention, etc. So if you were representing an NGO, public health NGO, would you be worried?
Yeah, I think there have been these arguments that the new competitiveness fund will focus more on cutting-edge technologies and on the development of high-end health technologies as opposed to prevention, screening, and all the other things that you've mentioned. So it really depends on whose point of view you're embracing. If you're a big pharma company, I guess that this change wouldn't be too bad for you, and actually it presents new opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting to hear that. My final question for you is, now it's just a proposal, so maybe you could quickly brief us how this proposal will go on, what kind of talks are you hearing between the countries, in the parliament, because not one parliamentarian already mentioned that he would fight to have a standalone, for example, for health budget. So, what to expect?
Yeah, I think that this is something that we've seen in different areas where Parliament wants to keep the current structure of the budget, the new budget, as close as possible to the existing one. It's something we've seen in agriculture, in regional policy, and it's not surprising that we're seeing the same in health. But now the Commission has put forward its proposal in July. It is being negotiated by Council. Nothing has been agreed yet. A final agreement will only come at the end of 2026 or most probably in 2027. So I think that the most sensitive issues on the competitiveness fund, as well as everything else, will be solved in the latter part of the process, and then at that point there will have to be trialogues with the European Parliament on everything, including the competitiveness fund. But now the two big issues that we're seeing in the negotiations over the competitiveness fund is one, whether to give more importance to the principle of geographic distribution, because right now in the Commission's proposal, a lot of importance is attached on the principle of excellence. So the funding should go to firms, not based on where they are, but based on how excellent and competitive their bid is. But some countries are saying that this will create too much concentration, it will only benefit the bigger countries, so that's an open question. The second big open question, as I see it, is the involvement of SMEs, because also there you have smaller countries saying, well, this competitiveness fund is not good for us because there is a risk that big companies will reap the benefits, so there needs to be an explicit involvement of SMEs, and it should be more than it currently is. So I think these are the big open questions, and I'm curious to see what the panelists have to say about that when it comes to health.
Me too. Thank you so much, Gregorio. A round of applause for him. And I will invite my panelists to join me on the stage. Thank you.